The laughter burst like a cruel storm, sharp and echoing, filling the grand hall of glass and marble where a private gala was underway. Silk dresses shimmered under chandeliers, champagne flutes clinked, and wealthy men in tailored suits leaned back in their chairs, smirking as one of them, a Chinese billionaire known for his ruthless tongue and boundless arrogance, pointed his jeweled hand toward the lone black waiter standing at the edge of the room. His words, spoken in Mandarin, were venom disguised as humor, a mocking phrase that sliced at the man's dignity, certain that no one in the room would understand except those born to his language. The crowd erupted in agreement, laughter swelling like a wave, their faces alight with cruel amusement. Some covered their mouths, some leaned forward, shaking with delight, others turned to ensure everyone else had caught the insult. Their laughter was not only at the billionaire's words, but at the man's presumed ignorance. A man who carried trays, who bent his back in service. How could he possibly grasp the meaning of words not meant for him? And yet, the waiter did not flinch. His hands steady on the silver tray did not tremble, though inside, his chest tightened with an ache as familiar as it was bitter. He had known the sound of mocking laughter before. He had worn it like a shadow for much of his life, both as a black man in foreign lands and as a human soul unseen behind his uniform of service. But tonight, under the chandeliers and in the face of such arrogant cruelty, there was something in his silence that unsettled even those who laughed. His eyes, dark and unyielding, flicked toward the billionaire with a calm that spoke louder than fury. Few knew who this man was beyond his role with the tray. Fewer still knew the road that had carried him here. Once he had worn a different uniform. Not the starched white shirt and black vest of a waiter, but the fatigues of a soldier. He had stood in deserts where sand burned his skin, and in jungles where every breath carried the weight of survival. He had carried brothers in arms to safety, while bullets tore the air, and he had buried friends whose last words still haunted his nights. Service was in his blood, not service of food and drink, but service of country, service of something higher than himself. When he had returned home, decorated but broken in ways invisible to most, life had not unfolded into the respect he had earned. Instead, he found doors closed, opportunities denied, glances that saw his skin before his spirit. The job of a waiter, humbling and thankless, became his way of survival. But in his silence, he carried every story, every scar, every lesson forged in the crucible of war. That silence was his armor. The billionaire, smirking at the crowd's delight, leaned forward, adding another string of insults in Mandarin, sharper this time, more demeaning, as if to test just how far the humiliation could stretch. Each word dripped with superiority, each syllable soaked in the certainty of power. The crowd watched like an audience at a play, amused by the cruelty of the act, complicit in their silence. The waiter's chest rose slowly as he drew in a breath. His fingers brushed the edge of the tray, feeling the coolness of the metal, grounding himself in the moment. His silence had been his strength, but silence too has its breaking point. Slowly, deliberately, he turned his head, his gaze locking with the billionaire's. Then, without haste, he replied. In flawless Mandarin, the room froze. The words left his lips with a precision that silenced laughter mid-breath. Sentences shaped with a mastery that only one deeply immersed in the language could command. He repeated the insult, but inverted it, turning it back like a mirror, reframing the cruelty so that it no longer mocked him but revealed the ugliness of the man who had spoken it. His tone was calm, almost gentle, but every syllable struck with the weight of honor. A hush fell over the gala. The billionaire's grin faltered, his jeweled hand tightening on the armrest of his chair. He had built his empire on power, money, and the belief that languages could be walls, barriers separating those who rule from those who serve. But in that moment, the barrier crumbled. The waiter continued, still in Mandarin, his voice steady, unhurried, unshaken. He spoke not only of the insult, but of dignity, of respect, of the unseen battles carried silently by those who serve. He did not raise his voice, did not point a finger. Yet every person in the room felt the weight of his words pressing against their conscience. "You laugh at the one who serves you," he said in that borrowed tongue, "but you forget. Without service there is no feast, no empire, no throne. You mock the hands that carry, but it is these hands that have carried men through fire, through blood, through death. You speak of worth as if it were written in wealth, but I have seen worth written in sacrifice, in lives laid down so others may stand. Tell me then, who among us should be laughing?" The line fell into the silence like thunder rolling through distant mountains. No one laughed. Around the hall, eyes shifted. Some stared at the floor, shame seeping through their earlier amusement. Others looked at the waiter with new eyes, no longer seeing the uniform but the man within it. A few, the ones who knew Mandarin well enough to grasp every nuance, sat stiff and pale, stunned by the sheer precision of his words. The billionaire tried to muster a response, his lips parting, but no words came. The arrogance that had always shielded him faltered, cracking under the unyielding gaze of the man he had thought beneath him. In that silence, he was smaller, reduced, his power dimmed by the strength of dignity he could not buy nor command. And then something unexpected happened. From the far side of the hall, another voice spoke, this time in Mandarin as well. It was an elderly guest, a man of status and wisdom who slowly rose to his feet. He bowed his head toward the waiter, a gesture of deep respect, and repeated softly, without service, "There is no feast." The words rippled through the hall, like a tide turning. One by one, others stood, not laughing now, not smirking, but standing in quiet acknowledgement. Some lowered their glasses, some placed their hands over their hearts. In their silence, the waiter was no longer invisible, he was seen, truly seen. The billionaire remained seated, his face stiff, his fingers white on the armrest. He had lost not only his moment of mockery but his authority, undone not by shouting or retaliation, but by the quiet strength of a man he had underestimated. The waiter did not bask in the silence. He did not gloat. With a calm grace, he adjusted the tray in his hands, gave a slight nod and stepped away. To him, dignity was never about spectacle. It was about standing tall even when the world tried to bend him low. Later, the hall would be filled again with music and chatter, but it would not be the same. Those present would carry the weight of what they had witnessed. They would remember the man who spoke with honor when mocked, who revealed the poverty of cruelty by answering it with strength. And somewhere deep in the heart of the billionaire, though he would never admit it aloud, shame had settled like a stone. For those who stood in that hall, one truth became impossible to forget. True power is not measured in wealth or in laughter at another's expense. True power lives in silence that speaks louder than mockery, in dignity that outlasts cruelty, and in honor that cannot be taken, only revealed. If you're listening now, consider this. How often do we laugh when we should stand? How often do we remain silent when silence only fuels injustice? And yet sometimes it is silence itself, followed by the right words at the right moment, that can turn the laughter of many into the respect of all. Wherever you are watching from, share your thoughts. Do you believe respect can change hearts even in the most unlikely places? Comment below, and if this story moved you, subscribe for more tales of hidden strength and dignity that deserve to be heard.